Welcome back. I am John P. Today we're going to be talking about a new dive watch. Yes, a dive watch. Well, sort of, and I'll explain later what I mean by that. But a dive watch from a brand, the brand being Oris, that truly is phenomenal and I think is probably the top contender for the best bang for buck dive watch if you're looking for a steel dive watch. Today, if you're looking for a titanium dive watch, I just released a video talking about the new Tudor Pelagos or Pelagos, depending on where you're at. I know the pronunciation is different depending on the part of the world, but if you missed the release, Oris just announced a phenomenal dive watch, a 65 diver, an Oris 65 diver, but the catch to this is it features the new caliber 400 movement, and I think this watch is a knockout. Now, let's talk about the specs, and then we'll get into my opinions on this watch and why I think this watch is actually really special and sets the bar even higher for the price point that Oris currently sits at. Now, this is going to be the Oris Diver 65 12-hour, they call it, and we can see that with the 12-hour indicator on the bezel, which I'll talk about in just a second. But further, it's the caliber 400. Now, this dive watch is going to have a diameter of 40 millimeters and a lug-to-lug of 48 millimeters, so not that large, pretty much in line with what you'd see from a popular modern dive watch contender. Now, the thickness is going to be 12.8 millimeters, which is going to be slightly thicker than what you'd see in a 41 millimeter Rolex Submariner, the latest iteration of the most popular dive watch. I think we can agree. Now, the case is stainless steel in contrast to what Oris has been doing recently with some of their divers in the 65 line, like the bronze collection. So it's going to be steel. The dial is a matte black, giving it that more legible appearance when you have the applied indices in the white with the super luminous material that's applied to these indices. That's going to make the watch very usable in low light scenarios and very luminous. Of course, it is super lume. Now, the water resistance is only going to be 100 meters, which I'll say right now that unfortunately it's not that great compared to some of their competitors. But do you really need to go further than 100 meters? That's up for you to decide, right? But I think it can be very safe to still wear this water, splash around, and take it to most of the depths that many people, including the desk divers, will take it. Now, this watch, much like most watches on the market, can be purchased on either a leather strap or a stainless steel bracelet with a clasp that I think is better than most in this price point, as well as for dive watches in general. People seem to really like the Oris dive clasp and the wearability behind it. Now, something we'll talk about here is the bezel. You'll look at it and you'll say, wait a second, that looks more like a pilot's bezel, or, a bezel you'd see on a GMT watch, right? Well, that is what it is, right? It's a 12-hour bezel, and the point behind this bezel is to basically, or essentially, change what the new 12 o'clock is so that you can track another time zone, and it's rotating, so you can obviously change the number to where you need to, depending on the time zone difference from where the watch was originally set. Now, that's kind of interesting, right? Still calling it a dive watch, but it's in the dive collection, just the different bezel. You can still dive with it, but you have to consider that the bezel doesn't have, that graduation up to 60 like you'd see, but it does instead keep track of this second time zone. Interesting, kind of cool, kind of quirky, but I think it's fair to say most people are really not diving with these watches anyways, if you could get a diving computer, which is going to be probably more reliable. Now, what's so special about this watch, and this is where we're going to kind of give it my my thumbs up or my thumbs down, really my thumbs up, because this watch is phenomenal, is going to be the movement. It features the Oris Caliber 400 in-house movement, which features a 120-hour power reserve. That is unbelievable, right? 5 days of power reserve. The watch can be fully wound. You could throw it on your table, come back 5 days or thereabout, and it's going to be able to be running, keeping time. That's unbelievable to see that in a smaller watch, and a watch at this price point. We're talking a watch that is $3,700 US. That's ridiculous. And it's even further ridiculous that anyone would need that type of power reserve, especially in a sport watch, but they put it in there. And I think in luxury watches sometimes, that's kind of a cool thing that brands will like to do to gain the appreciation of collectors, right? Hey, look at our power reserve. That being said, personally, I don't think that you need it, but it's cool. And to see them be able to do that and want to do that in a watch under 5,000, well under 5,000, I think that's great. Many people are going to think that's cool and an interesting talking point. And if you have many watches, yeah, you don't have to reset the watch if you swap out your watches every other day or you like to put other ones on, and you don't need a watch winder. Not that I necessarily recommend that you get a watch winder. I just think that's cool. And Oris is now putting this watch into this collection. They did it in a 38 millimeter size of an Oris diver when they did the Hodinkee limited edition collaboration some time back. And they have this caliber and versions in different watches, but it's really starting to get brought out to the rest of their models, their new models. And it's kind of setting this unattainable standard, I think, for other brands, to where if this catches on, are brands going to have to adopt this 5-day power reserve and rework and retool their old movements? I don't know. I guess it just depends if that kind of becomes the new standard, right? Kind of like everyone expects overnight shipping from every company because Amazon set that standard, everyone adopted it. And now if you don't have overnight shipping on your pair of tennis shoes or your t-shirt or your toothpaste online, it's like, what are you doing? This isn't what I come to really grow accustomed to. And I think if that happens, we could see some other things happen in the watch industry that might, kind of rustle the feathers of their competitors. And another thing we have to mention is this caliber 400 movement has a 10-year, not only warranty, but also service interval. That is truly remarkable. Now, do some brands kind of lower the service interval to maybe strum up a little business? Sure, right? The brands are out there to make money. A lot of them are publicly traded in a way. In some country, they might be doing that. But for a brand to come out and say 10-year warranty on the mechanics, 10-year service interval, I think that truly sets the bar at a whole new high. In summation, I think this watch is unbelievable. If you don't need the dive bezel, this is an excellent watch, and the price point is killer, especially if you can get a deal or pick one of these up pre-owned in the future. I think this watch is a knockout, and more people should be putting this on their radar for the coming months when they start shipping to stores and watch collectors can add them to your collection. But I want to hear, what do you have to say about this very cool Oris dive watch with the 12-hour bezel? I'd love to see it and hear it in the comments below. Guys, please do not forget the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok, The Real John P. And we'll see you next time. You've been chatting with John P.